So are you like me? Are you tired of getting your shot blocked by more athletic and taller defenders? Well, I am very much so. However, that stops right now. That stops today. Because I'm about to teach you guys 3 lethal options that you can use to destroy shot blockers, to destroy defenders that are taller than you, that are more athletic than you. And these options right here will open up your game and will make you a much confident driver, and you will be able to finish in the lane over literally anyone. Because for these 3 finishing options, you don't have to be tall, you don't have to be explosive, you don't have to be athletic. All you have to be able to is understand angles, play with the right pace, and know how to use your body. If you can do those things, I promise you, next time you drive, you are not going to be worried about any type of defender. So without further ado, let me not waste any time and let me get straight to it. So you may be sitting there and thinking like, well, it sounds good, but is it realistic? Can I be less athletic, shorter, not as explosive, and still be able to get my shot off over elite athletes and taller defenders? Yes, 100%, absolutely. So let me introduce you to these 3 finishes. So our option number 1 will be slow step finishing. If you watch players like Luka, he has completely mastered that footwork and that finishing options, which allows him to pretty much toy with defenders on his drives. Option number 2 will be my Veer Finish. It's a great option to take the angle away from the shot blocker and create separation for a shot. And then third option will be similar to a Veer Finish, but now we will add a component of throwing the ball into the defender. So almost like shoving that ball in their face in order to make them drop their arms, drop their hands down, so that way they are not going to get called for a foul. So we will start one by one, and I will go into, extreme depths of detail to explain you guys every single one of these options and how and when you can use them. So let's begin with a slow step. What is a slow step? Well, when we take regular 2 steps into our layup, so let's say it's right, left, and then we go up, we're just going normal pace, right? So what a slow step is literally the exact same thing. All we want to do is just literally slow step it, decelerate really heavy, take really wide, heavy strides. So that way now we're going to throw defenders' timing off, so that way they're not going to be able to block my shot. So let me just simply demonstrate that for you. So this is a regular 1-2 step regular layup. So this is going to be my 1-2. Oh my goodness. You know what? Forget that this ever happened. Let me redo it again. So regular 1-2 step layup. Right? I'm glad I made it. So that's a regular 1-2 step layup. I can't believe I did that. Now, what is a slow step? Here it is. Boom, finish. So what's going to happen on that last very slow step is defense is going to jump, because what does defenders going to think? Defense is going to time us in their head. They're going to time 1-2. And as soon as they see us taking that second step, that's when they're going to immediately jump and trying to block our shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to delay it, pause it really hard, allow them to fly by, and then as they go down, we go up for an open layup. Impossible to guard, right? So it's just going to be me drive 1-2, and I want to make sure that I'm going to keep this foot up and I'm not going to put it down, right? I want to have a great balance here. That's probably one of the hardest things that a lot of players struggle with, is great balance. Since we're going to have to balance here on one foot as we decelerate, right? So we're going from full speed to deceleration on one foot. That's not easy to do, right? So we want to make sure that we work on that, right? So we work on that balance. We work on 1, 2. And then as they jump and fly by, because they are so eager to block our shot, they fly by, we wait, open shot. And no, this is not a travel. Watch Luka, another player that's really good at this, Jordan Clarkson. There was this one move that he did, the same slow step. So he did a veer step with a slow step against Giannis. And then Giannis jumped. And by the time Giannis was already on his way down, that's when Jordan Clarkson just started to go on his way up. So the separation was there, and it was really an elite move, right? So that's, you know, that's what a slow step finishing is. It's a move that's designed to make shot blockers jump way before we jump. That's how we're gonna be able to get our shot off. And especially when a shot blocker knows that they either A, more athletic, or B, taller, or C, both, they're gonna be really eager to jump and then block our shot. So that's how we're gonna easily trick them in order to have that open look. Now, I would like to talk about one of the key details that we have to be able to understand on a slow step. Usually when we're gonna have to, use a slow step, that means what? That means the defender is gonna be really tight on our hip, chasing after us, right? So what we wanna do is when we take that second step, we do not wanna be squared with the ring, right? So we don't wanna be squared like this, right? Because for one, defense is on our hip. For two, they're gonna jump here, right? So we don't wanna be like this. So what I teach players is we have to completely square away from the rim. Allow the defender to fly by, and then we will twist, rotate back into our shot, right? So it's gonna look like this. So I will go, slow step, and if you'll notice, my ball is away, my shoulder's squared away, everything's like this. So now he cannot get that ball, right? He can't poke it out of my hands, can't rip it, can't block it. So here, now, once he jumps by, that's when we will rotate back in, and then, wow, Peter, and then get into our shot, right? So, I don't know what's going on with me. I do all these missed layups. It's not a good look. So, that's what a slow step finishing is, right? It's just simply making defense jump before us, throwing off their timing, and then creating that open look for us. Big key is balance. Like I said, balance is key. And then being rotated away on that second step, making sure that he flies by without having any ability to strip that ball from out of our hands. And once he or she does that, then we rotate back in, open look. So I would really lock in on two things. Is hard deceleration, nice balance, nice pause on that last step, or on that last step, and then shot. So just practicing that, this finish here is gonna come with a lot of reps, right? Because it's not very complex, but it is not easy to execute when you go from full speed to deceleration and then full stop on 1 foot, right? And then defense gonna nudge you too. So it's pretty complex overall, right? Like if you think about it, but a lot of reps, then trying to, maybe do like a partner drill to where, you ask your partner to play defense on you and then work it that way. And then in games, I promise you, you will have so much more confidence with this slow step finish. Option number 2 is my veer step finish. So imagine the road, right? Imagine the road and there's 2 lanes, right? There's a right lane and then there's a left lane, right? So imagine we're driving in the right lane and another car is driving in the left lane right next to us, right? And let's say we're either even or we're slightly in front of them, right? So imagine that, 2 cars on the road. And what a veer is just simply the car that's in either lane, but let's assume that we're in the right lane because we're gonna go right now, and then we're gonna have our defender in the left lane, right? So that second car that's in the left lane. And so what veering is just simply a cutoff action where we're gonna like veer into their lane, and then once we veered into their lane and initiated contact, we will bounce back into our lane for an open look, right? So that's what a veer finish is. So very similar like a slow step, right? So now only difference here is gonna be, we're gonna take our last step, not forward, but veer into that left lane where the defender is gonna be, right? So I'm gonna attack, it's one. First step's always gonna be out. So that way I can create a little gap in between me and my defender, right? I wanna create that gap because then the bump's gonna be much more powerful than it will be if our shoulders literally rubbing against one another. Now that bump's not gonna be, see that? That bump's not gonna be as good. But if there is a gap, I can shoot this gap with my shoulder, and now that bump's gonna be really, really good, right? So I wanna make sure that on that first step, I still go forward, but slightly at an angle away from my guy. So when I'm gonna drive, it's roll, still forward, but at an angle, create the gap, and now on my second step, I will veer, bump into them, and then I will jump away into my finish. Now let's talk about main key elements that's gonna make veer finish successful. Key number one, main problems that a lot of players have on a veer is we all have a habit of swinging the ball from hip to hip when we take our 2 steps. When we take 2 steps, we have a habit of swinging the ball from hip to hip, right? If we're wide open on a fast break by ourselves, swing that ball all you want. I get it. That's how we generate momentum, right? That's how we walk, right? So if we're gonna put the ball down and we're gonna walk or run, our arm's gonna swing, right? Arm's gonna swing as we run, as we walk, okay? So that's why we all have the habit of swinging the ball on the 2 steps, right? On this one, however, you have to consider 2 factors. Factor number 1, he's on my hip or she's on my hip already, okay? So that's one factor. So now it's dangerous to swing the ball hip to hip because that's an automatic strike. But on top of them being on my hip, now think about on my last step, I'm also gonna go into them. So it's bad enough that they already on my hip, but now I'm also gonna go into them. So I definitely want to protect my ball. So when I'm gonna take my 2 steps during my veer finish, I wanna keep the ball like this on both of my steps. So it's gonna look here. So it's gonna be boom, finish. That's how we want to keep the ball hidden away from our defender, and we still can do our footwork. We can still go 1, 2, and then finish. That's the most efficient way of placing the ball when we're doing our veer. Detail number 2 is we want to have deceleration at the end. So very similar to a slow step finish, right? But just with the addition of a veer step into the defender's lane. So deceleration is going to allow us to find defender's shoulder better, and it will also allow us to load up into the bump a little bit more, so that way that contact is going to be felt by my defender. So if I'm going to go quick steps, I can still do it, but that bump is not going to be as physical as it would be if I go 1, 2, right? So I really want to load up, which for that I need deceleration, especially on my last step. On my both steps, but especially on my last step. And then third key is once I initiate contact with my defender on that veer bump, I want to make sure that I jump away off of that bump. And once you're going to hit the bump, naturally you will start falling opposite way, right? But what we don't want to do, unless the bump worked so well that defense just went flying completely and then we're just wide open. But sometimes bump can be good, but defenders still can be there, right? So let's say if I have like a LeBron on me, right? And let's say I did my best bump ever, he probably not moving, right? Like, let's just be honest. He probably not moving, right? So for that, I want to give myself the best chance to get my shot off. So I have to bump, take away that angle, and then I have to jump out to create separation on my finish. Great, I ran out of storage. But as I was saying, I have to be able to jump away in order to give myself the best possible look in case the bump is not going to take my defender out. So it's going to look like this. I go 1, 2, I jump away. Give myself that extra space I need to get my shot off. So that's my third detail on a veer. So you want to make sure that you follow all these 3 key elements if you want to be successful with your veer finish. And now my third option, which is very similar to a veer finish, but there will be an addition on my last step. So I know I've said that we do not want to swing the ball, right, on our 2 steps. And that is true. But sometimes defense can play us overly aggressively, and they can literally be like nudging us, shoving us a little bit on our hip, right? So what players do at a high level, and in my opinion, Brad Beal and Paul George are probably 2 of the best at this. And I wish I could include NBA clips here, but I'm not able to because of the copyright stuff on YouTube. So you can see those clips in the video that I made about this tutorial on YouTube, where I included NBA clips for each one of these shots. So you can go there and check it out, right, to see how it works in game. But so all this finish is just me throwing the ball at my defender on my second step, which will usually make our defenders just back off like this or drop their hands down because they do not want to get called for a foul. So it's going to be literally the exact same motion as a veer step. It's just one thing that we're going to do is on our last step, we will move the ball like this, almost like lean it into their face like that here. So from here, it's really hard to steal the ball because it's right in front of their face, right? And then my hand is covering here, so you can't really like slap it, because like for you to get that ball out of my hands, I don't know how you would do that, right? Especially going at that speed and then everything moving so quickly, and then we're right next to one another, right? So it's really hard to poke that ball out of your hands, but we have to make sure that we move it over the top only, that we're not moving it like this. We have to shove it like this here. So it's gonna be me taking 2 steps here, kind of shoving that ball, and then same thing, we separate, we jump away, and then we shoot. So it's gonna look like this. So it's gonna be dribble, boom, and that is my finish. That's how we're gonna make defender back off, drop their hands, drop their arms, and that's gonna also, we're gonna be able to sometimes draw fouls with it, which is a very underrated way to get ref to blow the whistle. So that's me throwing the ball or me shoving the ball into the defender's face. Same footwork as veer, all the same details. It's just now on our last step, we shoving the ball over the top like this, into them here. They're gonna back off because they don't want to get called for a foul, which is gonna allow us to have an open look. So now we have no excuse of getting our shot blocked or not be confident on our drives, right? I just taught you 3 key options that every player needs to have in their game, especially those that are undersized or not as athletic, so that way we can cook those eager shot blockers, right? So please work on that. Please make sure that you study every single detail, that you pay attention to every single detail that I just taught, because just by missing one simple detail is really gonna be, it's gonna be detrimental to the success of your finishing. So we wanna make sure that we follow all those details and we implement them in our finishing. So thank you guys again so much for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something new. Like I said, I'm gonna keep pumping these tutorials up, long form, trying to help you guys get better. So finishing was probably one of the most requested topics in the comments. So I'm listening to you guys. I wanna make sure that I give you guys what you ask for. So these are the top 3 finishes that I would teach any player, right? So I hope this helps, and I will see you guys next week. Let's get it.